Hello, my name is Joe, and welcome to my channel, Joe's Book and Movie Corner. I have another video for Shorty September. This will be my last video for Shorty September. And for this video, I wanted to follow up with a play that I read last time. So I read, in my previous video, I talked about Richard II. And I wanted to read what's considered a companion piece to that play. And it's a Christopher Marlowe play, Edward II. A lot of times these two plays are kind of always talked about together. So I wanted to read something by someone other than Shakespeare, a contemporary. And then, of course, to wrap it up, before the end of the month, I wanted to read another Shakespeare play. I decided not to continue on with the history plays, but I wanted to read something else, and I read Measure to Measure by Shakespeare. So even though I only read two plays for this video, I'm going to start out by talking about Richard II, and then I'll follow it up with Edward II, then we'll wrap it up with Measure to Measure. If you want to skip ahead, look down in the description, and I'll put timestamps down below. So, my history with Shakespeare, a few years ago, I started collecting all of the history plays as physical copies. With my intention was I was going to go through them all. I read a few Shakespeare plays. This is like 10 years ago. Julius Caesar, Hamlet. I didn't catch the Shakespeare bug at the time, and those history plays just sat on my shelf. I was not planning on participating in Shorty September, but I just decided on a whim, like, these things are short. Let me give it a go. The one that I really have my eyes set on is Richard III, but I decided, no, let's just go to the beginning of the cycle, the first tetralogy, and I will start with Richard II. And boy, am I glad that I did. I loved it. It was great. Now with Shakespeare, so what I'm doing with these plays, I am reading them actually on my Kindle. I am not reading annotated versions. Occasionally I look up definitions of words, but I'm just trying to get used to the language. When I reread them, I will read an annotated version and really slow down and try to understand more of the references. But Richard II, I loved it. I thought the character was really interesting. There's the great scene where he's up on the battlements and he's realizing that he's losing the support of all his lords, and Bolingbroke is down and they're like negotiating, and Bolingbroke says, you know, give me back my land, let me back in the country, but you're still the king. And Richard II is just, he's getting depressed by, more and more depressed by the moment, and he's like, no, I'm going to give up the crown. Really great play. I loved it a lot. And like Macbeth, when I was younger in middle school and high school, that play kind of showed me the door. There's this door here. It's Shakespeare. Richard II opened that door, I think. And it was really, really good. Now, I did struggle with it. I did zone out. I struggled with the language. But it's just an excellent play. And it's interesting because as I've been looking at, various ranking videos where people do like the S tier, A tier, B tier videos on Shakespeare plays, there are a good amount of Shakespeare fans that don't like Richard II, and they find it boring and nothing happens. And I'm getting the impression that if you like Richard II, maybe you're a hipster contrarian. So maybe that's me. I don't know. Maybe that's like if you're a Pink Floyd fan and you're like, well, Obscured by Clouds is actually superior to Dark Side of the Moon. I mean, come on. Maybe it's like that. I don't know. Anyway, so I really liked Richard II, and I wanted to read the companion play by Christopher Marlowe, Edward II. These plays are very similar. It's also about kind of a weak king. And in this case, it's interesting because Edward II, he has, I'm not looking up names here. I think it's Gaveston. Is that how it's pronounced? Gaveston or Gaveston? Apologies if I'm screwing that up. But he has what's clearly a same-sex attraction with this other guy, and all his lords are like, Who is this clown? Gaveston. And, to the chagrin of his wife, Queen Isabella. And that was really, really interesting. And I think I agree with the majority opinion. When you're reading Marlowe, he is so much easier to read than Shakespeare. I don't think there was a scene in this play, Edward II, where I was confused as to what was happening. I mean, with Shakespeare, I will zone out. I will be reading a scene and I'll be like, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what's going on. And the whole scene is basically a mystery to me. So that happens to me. And with Marlowe, I don't get that. It's the the pacing, it feels faster. It feels like there's not, sometimes there's Shakespeare, you'll go off with side characters and they'll tell like these jokes and they're making references, and I'm like, I'm not reading an annotated version, so I'm not getting the reference. And even if I were reading an annotated version, I mean, if they're making a joke and I have to stop and the text, the annotation has to explain the joke to me, the joke doesn't work to a modern reader. So, Shakespeare, I get sidetracked a lot. Christopher Marlowe, you don't get that at all. And yet, I felt that with Edward II, with Marlowe, it was missing that magic that I think I see in Shakespeare. And yeah, with Shakespeare, there's just a spark of extra something. Yes, he's more difficult. Yes, I will zone out more. Yes, like sometimes it feels like half the play, I don't know what's going on. And yet that his language just lights this fire in you. I don't fully understand it yet. But I see why people really love Shakespeare, and I get why, everyone knows the name William. If you haven't read a single book since high school, you know who William Shakespeare is. You don't know who Christopher Marlowe is. So I get it. I get why he's known. So anyway, but I am glad that I read Edward II. I would like to read more Christopher Marlowe. And there is, if you have trouble with Shakespeare, try out Christopher Marlowe. He is easier to read. You might like him better. Okay, so last up, for my last Shakespeare play, Measure to Measure, I decided not to continue with the history plays because I heard something. I heard about a particular scene in this that really piqued my interest. So I wanted to read this Measure to Measure, and then to explain what it's about. It's in Vienna. There's a duke. We're going to get back to him. I had some trouble with him. There's a duke that he sets up. Basically, we're going to crack down on the whorehouses and the fornicators. And then he leaves the second in command, to kind of run things while he's gone. I missed why the Duke left. And also he comes back in disguise and kind of gets involved with things. I mean, in the end, there is an explanation given, so I think I understand it. But for the most of the play, I was like, why is the Duke doing the things that he's doing? I don't get it. That kind of took me out of it. But yeah, so he leaves. They're cracking down on the fornicators. There is a guy that gets a girl pregnant. He's going to be executed because he's a fornicator. And his nun sister is pleading for his life. And there's a scene where, again, apologies for I don't have the names written in front of me. If you've read the play, you know what I'm talking about. So the guy, the second in command, she's pleading with him, please spare my brother. Come on. Are we going to execute him for this? And he basically propositions her. He says, if you sleep with me, I will spare his life. And she's horrified. She tells people, and this is the scene that made me want to read this, hearing about this scene. And she says, I'll tell everyone that you're suggesting this. You're a scumbag. I'm going to tell everyone. And he goes, who would believe you? That's incredible. I mean, it shows you that the crap that goes on today is still, it's been going on forever. And that Shakespeare would put that in here. It shows that, yes, he understands people. He understands human nature. And it made me think, I've mentioned Jane Austen recently. I've only read 3 Jane Austen novels, but with my last one that I read, Northanger Abbey, it made me realize that Jane Austen, she's writing about a world that's alien. It's a different time period. The culture is different. The customs are different. And that shouldn't be relatable to a modern reader, me, today. And yet, she understands human nature. So even though this culture is different, these people are very different, you get them. They're people. They're still people. Same thing is happening here. With that scene, like I see people are selfish and nasty and hypocrites, and they will try to, screw other people over, and they really act, badly to other people. So that scene really blew me away. Now, I mentioned I was having problems with the Duke. There is an explanation given why he's under disguise, and then he starts, helping this nun to save her brother's life. There is an explanation given at the end. but I struggled with it. I mean, the whole time of, when I was reading about his actions, to quote the great Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. But why? I just wanted to ask this Duke, why? Why are you doing all this? So I struggle with some of this, but once again, coming from Christopher Marlowe back to Shakespeare, even though I struggled with some aspects of Measure to Measure, it had that spark. It lights that fire in you, that the language of Shakespeare, and just moving forward. So we're done with Shakespeare, or we're done with Shaketember. We're already in October. But I want to continue on reading Shakespeare. My plan is to just continue on with the tetralogy that I started. So I want to read Henry IV, Part 2, and then following that up with Henry V. Very excited to read this one. And then eventually I'll read the second tetralogy. And yeah, just continue on with Shakespeare. I want to read Shakespeare now for the rest of my life. And I want to reread these plays. Richard II, helped unlock Shakespeare for me. So that's it for Shaketember. It was a lot of fun. I'm really glad I participated in it. But that's all for now. Thank you.